All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Takedown Breakdown here on the Ship It Nation YouTube station. Make sure to tap that thumbs up on the way in and subscribe to the channel. All of our free shows on here will be ready for you. You get the notifications. We got a lot of other sports going on, even with just the NFL being the main focus. We got the Christmas Day slate coming up. We've got the Monday Night Football game tonight. I will be hooping myself today, actually, 2 p.m. Eastern, and then on Wednesday, an early 10 a.m. Eastern hoop title and myself breaking down the main slate there. Got my guy Nades here with me today, and we're going to break down everything from week 16, looking at the perfect lineup, the $20 Millie Maker. Going to go through some of the stone. Nades, what's happening, my man? How you doing today?
Doing all right. It's that time of the year here, Wisconsin, right? Little sickness. Was over with my buddies and his kids and everything, and they obviously got the old little sickness, so I got a little scratchy throat, little under the weather today, but overall pretty solid Sunday. And it could have been pretty disastrous, but luckily I prep ahead of time going into a slate, right, and set up the optimizer with my inputs that I want. So if stuff happens like it did, right, where you mess your CSV up with 7 minutes to lock, you can at least get some competent teams in there. And overall, I had a pretty solid Sunday. I'm thankful to our partner SaberSim and using the stone, because without that, it would have been probably a nightmare because anything that happens, it's very struggle and you start to panic. But I knew I had the stone, so I trusted Saber. I had it all set up perfectly with all the guys right from the stone, right from our content over at Ship It Nation, and ran it, and it saved my butt.
Yeah, we did a video on that over in the Mastermind project where you and I showed how to take it directly from the stone, have it loaded up. Like everyone that struggles with building a player pool or, getting it to work and finding good inputs. We'll look at that today and some of the stuff. I mean, I don't think Genty would have got there for us. That was pretty crazy. The outcome a week later after we talked about it. But man, Title can't be on the show later today. He said Michael Wilson was Randy Moss, and then Michael Wilson mossed somebody for another touchdown just to go off. This guy's crazy right now. So shout out to Title on that call, Nades. But just looking at this slate yesterday, a little bit wild the way it played out. And obviously the afternoon game, very frustrating with that Pittsburgh-Detroit game. Just, one of those bad golf games that you can get. And we're tagging our boy Hoop in the Discord. So just bring up the things again. Like he said, I've been right about a lot of these. He was right about Dak. He's right about Kyler Murray. He's right about Goff. It just continues on. So frustrating week from that perspective. We're going to break it all down for everybody. Shout out to Notes in the chat. We got our man Go Collect, Jason Turner, Coach Sav. Appreciate everybody being here with us on this early Monday morning. And Nades, the kids do get the sicknesses this time of the year. I'm fending it off at my house as we speak of everybody, my wife, kids, everyone. But you got the bourbon fix over there. Nothing a good bourbon can't fix, right? So you're all set if you need that. Let's do this. Let's bring up the perfect lineup. Get right into this, Nades. This was the setup yesterday. Now, again, guys, this is the perfect lineup. We just look at the optimal just to see like what it looked like on this slate, what was spent, what type of spots were gone to, what people went to, where it would have got you. Of note, when we get to the $20 Millie Maker, I think it was 218 or 219. This was a 49.6K lineup, 266K lineup, 266.7. It's the perfect lineup. So this plugs in all the best plays as they could fit together. But outside of a few nades, I mean, like Chig, okay, probably not getting to him. Warren, Alex, my guy Blickle talked about him on Leverage Lane, said it's great leverage. When you got the guy for $1,000 more, the same projection, it's easy to find $1,000 on this slate. If you were on the Houston Texans D, you could just go down to a 3K or below defense. Like it was so easy to get to him if you wanted him, and he ended up having the big game. But Genty, Chase Brown, all the complainers about Chase Brown too, the snowflake, a quarter and a half in, and then he goes and just dunks on him and drops 3. ETN did that the week before. So take us through this perfect lineup and any thoughts from yesterday's slate.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the Chase Brown stuff. I think that we're going to obviously see Chase Brown in all the winning lineups, and I think it's pretty sharp because if people are going to running back in that game, they're going to Achane as a pivot off of the guys at the top, right? Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, which we're going to talk about. And just as a roster construction as a whole, you take a look at a roster like this, it's a pretty balanced build, right? When yesterday you knew it was stars and scrubs, you knew people wanted at least 2 of those spend ups, Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, and then a spend up wide receiver, right? They were trying to jam 3 of those guys in and play a cheap quarterback stack, right? Like the Minshew, and obviously we'll talk about that, right? With the injuries and things just yesterday in general, injuries all over the board, but hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles when they're playing smash mouth football for 16 weeks, right? And you get to the 16, 17, 18 week, injuries are bound to happen. And it's just unfortunate. That's the way it rolls out, right? So you can tilt those all you want. Everybody deals with the same injuries, right? So it's not just, doesn't just hurt you, it hurts everyone. But overall, from a roster construction standpoint, going to that 6K, 7K range for a quarterback, right? Which was like Josh Allen, those type of builds, flip the build in general yesterday going into the slate. And that's what you see on all the winning lineups yesterday. You see right here in the perfect lineup, obviously perfect lineup is 50 points more or 40 points more than right what the $20 Millie Maker won, and 60 points more than what the $5.55 Millie Maker won. So anytime you see that, that's just a process of the results. Guys like Parker Washington, right? Chig, Genty, right? Just kind of fall in there. But the Chase Brown stuff fits the roster construction in that game, right? Everybody wanted the Burrow side, the passing attack side, or HN. Well, Chase Brown is involved in both of that, right? Kind of flips the build, and it gets you off of a different running back build in general, right? From those spend up guys. And then you see the Genty play, right? I'm not going to talk too much on that outside of just a process of variance, right in NFL there. I mean, he was 2% owned for a reason, right? Lowest, I think they were implied for like 12 points or something, right? Lowest total we've seen all year. Not to say that totals dictate, right, what's going to happen. But again, the Olave, really good play in general. The Tyler Shuck stuff, we're going to see a lot of that, reviewing that. Olave just wasn't getting played too much at that 65 because, again, people were playing Jameson Williams in that range, or they were going all the way up to Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? All the guys up at the top range, and DK Metcalf for cheaper, right? So overall, not much more to say on the perfect lineup. The Jaylen Warren flip-flop with Gainwell, I think is very sharp. Obviously, Gainwell had a good day himself as well. Talk about Randy Moss and dudes. That catch that he had down the sidelines there was pretty incredible in its own right. But Jaylen Warren at 6'1", again, the mid-tier running back build was pretty sharp going into the slate yesterday when you knew everybody was playing one of the punts, a guy like Michael Carter, with 2 of the top guys, usually Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. So flipping that yesterday, I think would have been pretty sharp. And I didn't get on it a ton myself, and I think that was a miss.
That's what happened. Exactly. That was the big stand-up. People say, like, when we look at this, like, no point. It's the perfect lineup. Of course, it's good. It's not what we're looking at it for, though. So the key to me was this, is like you saw a lot of the 7s, the 65s, the 56, 69. It's all Herbert, Burrow, and Lawrence, 59, 6K, and 65. And then all their pieces are mid-range. You can get a guy. This is a wide receiver 1. And he's 6,500. You don't have to pay 8,200 or any of those big boy prices, 7,800. You can find that on another team. Pickens, who's been just as solid, if not better, than Lamb. Obviously, Lamb went out for some games and whatnot, but the numbers were solid throughout the entire season for him. Another good game. Parker Washington, again, don't know if you're getting to like Parker Washington, Chig, whatever, but the rest of them aren't crazy to get to. And then just bringing it over some like the Saints D and all of that. I just brought the stone up. I was going to go back to it here. You know, people ask why we talk about this so much, or like the best tool in DFS, which, you know, we're biased for sure, but there's no better way to do this than to have this on your side. You can see that this is a 26-point team total, and it's a target game. It's purple, right? You go down here, this game, purple, big team total, lower stack ranking. Mind you, good call again from Title yesterday too, that Burrow did end up having a really good game, but it was kind of like the ETN Trevor Lawrence thing. It was Burrow to Chase Brown, but just of note, he did not come in at 9.7, but even still, he had a pretty good optimal range here. But the biggest thing is the report card and what type of matchup did he have going up against a D- on the scorecard here. So the stone really has it all. He was labeled here in the turquoise. Those that don't use the stone or know what that is, that's a high upside play. You saw it yesterday, very high upside for him. You go down Olave, he's a guy we saw a bunch of, 18% to be optimal. He actually ended up coming in at 12.3 in the Millie Maker. This stack was off the charts. It was our best in the stack ranking. It's pink for a sneaky game. Could have been even better if they didn't keep using Taysom Hill. But I mean, Taysom Hill ended up having himself a game at $2,500. But still, Olave, cash consideration, great spot here. Made a ton of sense. The Saints D, you saw it, right? They were one of our highest optimals, and they were lower priced than the Houston Texans and those spots that you want to look at there. So they pop up on it. If you go to that LAC Dallas game, you had Herbert, you had Ladd, you had QJ, you had Pickens. It was all right there for the taking. If you're wondering if you want to play the Chargers side, yeah, pass defense still an F for Dallas over here. Again, purple on here, target game. So I see how some people got there. Obviously, it doesn't mean everyone will get there, and myself included got there. I obviously like Minshew. I like the stack ranking. I like him, Worthy, Kelsey, putting it all together. He got injured on that first drive and then didn't recover from it, ended up getting pulled. It just makes for an even worse Christmas Day slate when we get there. Just, brutal setup. Brosmer we're going to have, and Oladukin or whatever this guy's name is for the Chiefs now. But yeah, a lot of good things were on here. Parker Washington, like I said, I wouldn't have been getting to him. He definitely didn't pop for me. Sutton looked like he was going to have a good game, but the biggest letdown, Nades, was all these spots here, right? Metcalf, I almost got kicked out in the first half for punching a fan. By the way, I liked your Valdez-Scantling call yesterday at Stone Min. He dropped a touchdown, I think, right in the end zone. So that was brutal. But yeah, Goff just didn't come to play. And that's the way it goes sometimes. But, chasing it from the week before, maybe it wasn't the best. I don't know. From a process standpoint, I feel really good about it. From, seeing it play out, it's kind of like the thing that I made fun of. And then I went and did it myself too. So we're all in the same bucket when it comes to that case of like, should we really chase this guy and just say it's going to be Amon-Ra Jameson back-to-back weeks with him and run it back with Metcalf like everybody else? I thought the Warren play that Blickle mentioned, and then trying to pick up on some of these cheap tight ends might be a way to get there. But nothing else for me on that one. Anything else on the Stone that you saw? Like Bijan popped off the page. One note there, Nades, real quick. Sorry to cut you off, but 24.9. Gibbs was a higher optimal. You could easily play them both though, and obviously Gibbs could have had a better game, just didn't. But not the worst. Just Bijan had a much better game. Any other thoughts for you or things that you saw on the Stone?
Yeah, the only thing with the chalkiest game, right, is usually in situations, right, when we go into the slate and we know one game is getting kind of all the ownership, there's usually always still low owned pieces within that game. And how it's set up yesterday with the pricing, it just wasn't the case. You knew all of them were getting played. I mean, you look at Gibbs, 46% owned. You look at Amon-Ra, 28% owned. Jameson Williams, 25% owned. DK Metcalf, 38% owned. Kenneth Gainwell, 17% owned. The only low-owned piece was Jaylen Warren. But, I mean, a lot of the guys that you were stacking, right? So if you're running Jaylen Warren, you're probably not running the Aaron Rodgers side. You're doing the Jared Goff side. And then you're playing Gibbs, Jameson, and Amon-Ra, two of the three, right? So, like, you weren't getting there that way. And I think going into the slate yesterday, we all knew that. And the ownership was we knew the ownership was going to stay pretty true because there was a lot of ownership actually in the morning on some of the plays, right? So people weren't able to kind of flip their whole lineup around. And I just think if that's the case, and they have the potential to spread it around, right? We were talking about guys like MVS yesterday, right? From a snap share. Tesla has been super involved in this offense. They still have David Montgomery that can get in there. They have the tight ends, right? And not to mention, Detroit's playing it. It's basically a playoff game for both of these guys, right? So you got the pressure added on top of Jared Goff. I'm not being results oriented, but when you have a game that everybody's going to, and it's very, very hard to get different within that game, the best route would probably been just to avoid it and just hope it's not it, because I'm sure there was a lot of people yesterday that had 70% of their portfolio into that game, right? Because that was really the only way to get over the field or get leverage on the field. So I think we got to pay more attention to that when there's not as much low-owned safety type plays, well, safe with upside plays within a game without getting crazy, right? So playing the wide receiver 3, 4, tight end 2s, things like that within the game. So I think that was definitely a learning point from yesterday, because usually we have a chalky game and it's usually 3 pieces, and then you can add on the 4th and the 5th and you're completely different than the field. That just wasn't the case based on how the pricing worked yesterday with that game.
Yeah, 2 key points as well. One of them will be more results oriented, but not even really. Like if you just landed on Gainwell, right, you still got 23 points. He didn't show up on the top 2 in the Millie Maker, and we're going to look at both those because one is my friend Squirrel Patrol, and then we've got the winner. So just noting that, like, kind of nobody from this game was needed on the top 2. And the other thing, like, people, get so mad about someone like Tesla. It's like he would have fit your game stack as a way to get different and be the cheaper option. So that's great, but he's not really going to show up anywhere unless that game goes off. Like that's kind of the setup, because not enough people would even have him. And so when you miss out on something like that, I talk about it a ton. Just don't be frustrated by that. If you had game stacks with Tesla in it, I think you played it good and you didn't get there because the outcome of the entire game. But that would have been a way to separate yourself, where maybe you had a Goff, Gibbs, St. Brown, Tesla instead of Williams, or even a Goff, Amon-Ra, Tesla with Gainwell and Metcalf. Like, at least then you went to the game stack in a different way. A Warren, a Metcalf, and the money that you needed to go up from Gainwell to Warren, you clearly got from Jameson Williams down to Tesla. But then you also get to upgrade a running back or another position to a more balanced build, or you get from like a Michael Carter at 5,400 up to one of those guys like Chase Brown at 6,900. You get all that extra money now. That's how you find it and still end up in good spots. So I don't want to be results oriented on as much as just talk about the concepts and things that we can learn from it. And then the other thing is, like, if you just land, again, Warren, not even in the top 5 in the Millie Maker. Why? Because nobody played him. Like, not enough played him. Like, somebody did, but not enough to matter. But the point being, if you weren't, what would be the way to kill this game is if somehow the Steelers, again, just none of us really had faith in this, but if the Steelers could just run the ball, it's more likely going to be with Warren in that case, right? The reason Gainwell has been so involved is because of the 8 targets and 7 targets and picking it up as the game goes along. But if it is going to be a game like that and you see it playing out that way, that can work. The same way, again, nobody really played Genty. He's going to show up on the winner for sure, though, because the price tag and all of that. But he's also a late swap option. Like, a lot of people that would have been on Harvey or Michael Carter, especially in the afternoon, would have been able to say, you know what, I can't play that chalk. Let me just go to Genty and hope for the best. I'm not on Texans D, so let's just see how this works out. So it's a little bit of that, but just of note, that's a way that you can get different. If you're not going to be on Houston, what would be the thing that hurts Houston? It'd be Genty. It would be Brock Bowers. It'd be the Raiders defense. Like, any of those could be the case. And good segue with that, Nades, is what ended up on the Bong Tao 33 winning lineup in the Millie Maker, 218.2. Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty, and the Las Vegas defense. We're all right there. 50K all the way. And it was a Herbert, Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, no run back, Olave, Chase Brown, Cook. I like this setup. Like, right here, you're just splitting the difference on the high lows. That's what I'm saying, though, about these balanced builds. Like, you look at this balanced build. 6K with his 4,900 and 4,800. You could call it wide receiver 2 and 3 if you wanted. I mean, Quentin Johnston keeps doing things when he's playing, when he's healthy. So whatever you want to say, Ladd had a decent game too. But just to note it, Olave, wide receiver 1 that was 6,500. Like, there's no 3K, there's no 5,400 at running back or anything. Like, you've got your Genty, sure, but you don't have the Michael Carter chalk version of this, and you don't have Gibbs, you don't have Achane, you don't have any of the stuff, Bijan. You're not even hedging or leveraging or doing anything against those spots. You're kind of just picking the mid-range and looking at these guys that can go off. And James Cook was another guy too, Nades. If you go back here, we'll go up to Buffalo. And James Cook, cash consideration, big boy projection and ceiling, huge optimal with a 15 is like a B+. So not really the best on paper, but just noting it was fine. But still, came in, I don't know at what was his ownership? 13.2. So we were pretty close on that one. But when you see a big optimal number on the stone for those that are members and you see big leverage, then you should be interested. And that's just an example. And if you go down to the Chase Brown one, is if you see this, but then you're not sure on the ownership number, like he ended up coming in at, I think it was 6%. Well, the 6 would have given a positive 2. Again, that's ownership. You got to think about this, but we actually allow everybody to download the XLSX file, or the CSV, but the XLSX file you can edit and work it to your favor so that you can work on your inputs before you bring them over and put them into SaberSim or whatever optimizer you use. So, Nades, I'll kick it over to you, man. This is the Millie Maker lineup, but balanced build, like we talked about, and an aggressive stance with all those Vegas guys. Do you see how many lineups he played too? I'm not sure.
I think it was 150. I want to say, let me just double check on that. I think it's 150. Let me just go.
30 lineups here. I got it now.
30.
Actually, I forgot I can just pull it up on screen, but I wanted to see his exposure. He had 33% Genty, 26% Brock Bowers. And where was his Raiders D? 10% Raiders D. So much higher on the Raiders than most, I would say. That's the interesting part. And then if you just flip it this way and go down, did he do anything with the Houston D? They were 4K flat. Not a single Houston D. He was on Schultz, so I'm guessing because of some of those secondary stacks and whatnot. And then I would wonder, how much was Nico? 7,500. He was about 13% on him. So yeah, just bigger on that side of the field though, for sure. Go ahead. You can take it over from here.
Yeah, overall, the Herbert stuff, right? I think that was a really sharp play because, yeah, he came in at 7%, but it's been like one of the best matchups in football, and you knew people were spending down at quarterback, right? They wanted the cheaper quarterbacks, and this got you on a different roster construction. The balanced build play, it was the keys to unlock the puzzle, right? Yesterday, when everybody else was trying to make the value stacks work to spend up for Bijan, Gibbs in that Pittsburgh game, right? With their mid-tier play for 5,400. So this way, you don't only flip the build, but you get on different wide receivers, right? You don't play the $5,400 DK Metcalf, right? You're playing a little bit cheaper that's correlated to the quarterback. Chris Olave is battling out with guys like Kevin Austin, Mason Tipton, Dante Pettis, and he's 6,500. I mean, that dude's $2,000 cheaper than some of these other wide receivers that are dealing with real life stud wide receiver twos. George Pickens, Jamison Williams, right? I mean, this dude has a bunch of practice squad guys that he's dealing with touches for. And Tyler Shuck's been shown to be able to throw the football and be good at throwing the football. And the dude is $6,500 with no Kamara. This team is just literally riddled with injuries. So I think overall, really, really good roster construction build. And then the James Cook play, when we just saw, I forgot who it was that just lit up Cleveland last week. Not to say it's going to happen again, but I think it was Travion Henderson, right? Had a couple explosive runs last week against Cleveland. James Cook is pretty explosive, if not more explosive than a guy like Travion Henderson. And he leverages what everybody's doing at the running back position. That was a great play. It looked really good on the stone. It was a lot cheaper to get to him than go to the Josh Allen stuff with the uncertainties, right? With the wide receivers, all of the stuff there that on the Josh Allen side. So overall, really, really good build. The Vegas stuff is a little harder for me to kind of get to. It could have been a lot of late swap stuff. I saw he had like 4% Bijan, so I don't know who he was overweight on in the early window that busted that he could have or he or she could have used an optimizer, right? That obviously takes that into account. SaberSim is very good at taking that kind of stuff into account, right? If they know your portfolio, you're overweight on some of the guys in the morning that bust, right? Late swap, automatically you're going to be under. Like I late swapped yesterday and I was way underweight on Jahmyr Gibbs at the end because of some of the stuff in the early. And that's the power of late swapping. And that's the power of knowing that, hey, does it feel comfortable to have like 5% Jahmyr Gibbs when you know he's going to be 45% owned and he has the ceiling of 55 fantasy points? No, it doesn't. But it's better to do that than go with the rest of the field when you know even if he smashes, it's not going to do anything for you and you're going to lose more money. So could have been the process of that. But overall, the balanced build is the biggest thing that I take away from here.
Yeah, definitely interesting to, what he might have had and swap to, never know on that case. But I think from the perspective of the portfolio that he had when we looked at it on 30 lineups, he was in on this or he was really in on it when he late swapped, one of the two, because he was way overweight on all these options. And kind of in this case, it's like, I know sometimes people worry because the ceiling aspect of it, but like the way to do it, if you're going to go all in on a side, is just to get everybody say, look, it's, what is it, 13-2? For all these guys. And I'm just hoping they do anything here, because if they do anything, I think all these are involved and that would really hurt the people that have Houston and so on and so forth. So I think that's a good perspective. And then also just being in on the games others aren't. Like if you're not going to be in on Pittsburgh, Detroit, I think that's where people struggle. It's like they can't move away from it, but it's like, if you're not going to be in on that game, why? Well, it's because another game is going to beat it. Okay. What one? Well, that Chargers Dallas game that nobody's touching with a 10-foot pole makes a ton of sense to me. Cincy Miami matchup, good. New Orleans against the Jets, with just like you said, the difference of like Chase versus Higgins and Lamb versus Pickens and Amon-Ra versus Jameson. This is Chris Olave versus Tipton, Austin, and whoever else, Taysom Hill, like whatever, compete. Sure. Well, this can happen. A 40-point setup. And he went deep for him 2 other times as well. He dropped a touchdown that he couldn't squeeze earlier that he didn't make that one up. That could have been a third. So again, butterfly effect, all that, whatever. And your James Cook call, your Cleveland D call is correct. What it was the runoff of Well, Tony Pollard just lit them up 3 weeks ago. And then it was last week, again, another call from my man Blickel over there on Leverage Lane. He said, well, wait a minute. If Tony Pollard can light these guys up, maybe Swift can light these guys up for the Bears. And he went for 2 touchdowns. And now yesterday, James Cook does it again against them. So while they're a B+ on the stone for the season, you can kind of think about some of that stuff over the past little bit in the time frame. So I definitely think that's a good call out there, and just overall good lineup. Well put together. If you get these things right and you only need this thing to happen, this is what can 1 point, 14. These weren't slate breakers for who these players are, but the trio pack of these guys, when you add in a 34.8, it was the same when our guy Sheets got second in the Millie Maker that week, where he had 4 of these Vegas Raiders, and that was when Jacoby Myers was with them, but he had Geno, Jacoby, Trey Tucker, and Bowers. And Bowers and Myers, the ones you would have expected to do the most, got 9 points, 9 fantasy points each. But Trey Tucker got 43.8 or whatever it was. So that made all the difference. Now, speaking of second place lineup, shout out to my man Squirrel Patrol. We had just talked on the Mayo Show on Friday about me getting third in the Millie Maker. We reviewed that here last week, and one-upping him that. He had the 7th place finish in that same tournament, or 6th. And he comes back and one-ups us again. He goes and gets the 2nd place for $100K in the Big Boy Millie Maker over on DraftKings Nades. And this was his lineup. He had Trevor Lawrence with Jacoby Myers and Strange, ran it back with Harvey. Thought that was super nice, really sharp way of getting involved in that one. He had the Chase Brown. He had Chris Olave. He had Justin Jefferson. Don't know what he started with here or there, but he did have the Saints defense with Genty rounding it out. So, I mean, like the Saints with Olave, there's no real setup there, but obviously the Saints in a really good spot, Olave in a really good spot. That makes sense. But just playing the more mid-tier build, again, 6,200, 5,900, 6K, 55, really no crazy punts in this one, a much more balanced build. What's your thoughts on this guy? Again, no Pittsburgh, no Detroit, no Bijan, none of these guys, really just completely different and really low ownership for the most part, outside of Jefferson being the highest owned at 16, which is nuts.
Yeah, and probably kicking himself to not just drop that ownership and go to a guy like Cortland Sutton that correlates with the game, and he nukes the Millie by like 10 points, right? Obviously, that's results-oriented there, but from a process standpoint, you could have easily got to Cortland Sutton at $5,700 over a guy you knew people were playing, because it's been his lowest price point since whatever 2020 or something like that, right? With Justin Jefferson, he's got 9 throwing in football, blah, 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 all that stuff. But I think the Trevor Lawrence stuff was really sharp. Denver defense is very good, but Denver defense has given up a lot of points to good offenses, right? I mean, the game with the Packers, who say what you want, they put up a lot of points against Denver, right? Any team that has been good offense has put up points on Denver. The teams that they tee off on are the offenses that are kind of in middling, right? And we saw what Trevor Lawrence has been doing over the last couple weeks. And it's a very, very important game in Denver, right? Where the AFC is wide open. Why not? Why couldn't Trevor Lawrence? And it also is in that 6K price range of quarterbacks when you knew everybody else was paying way down. And then that allows you to go to that mid-tier running back build where Genty's a pivot off of Carter and Kenneth Gainwell, who were the third and fourth highest owned running back plays on the slate. Saints defense obviously was a really, really good play, and it's also a pivot in that range from some of the chalkier defenses, especially the Houston defense up at the top, right? You're spending them down a little bit more. That allows you to go get a guy like Justin Jefferson, right? Even if you want to leave him in there. And then most people were playing RJ Harvey as like a one-off, right? Or a secondary stack, not in a game stack environment where RJ Harvey's explosive in his own right. And it's still a decent matchup. He's been involved in the passing game as well. And it's a different way, and it gets you on a different roster construction than what the field was playing yesterday, and it's correlated to your offense. So if it is him, it's attached. It's a piece that can get and give the ball back, right, to Trevor Lawrence and help these guys hit their ceilings. And then, again, the Chase Brown play, pivot off of the Burrow side, pivot off of Jamar Chase for cheaper, and a pivot off of the top range running backs. So overall, a really, really sharp build. And I like this build a lot more than even the first place build that we've reviewed. And I think after he probably looks at it here, the Sutton thing probably is kicking him.
Yeah, I think it's just the way the optimizer spits it out. But for sure, it's like when you look back at it, if you were looking to build this from home or you're looking to build a single entry on any given week, I think like a lot, people would put in a Sutton here. You'd get a ton of points from that, even if this was a Michael Carter or something. Like you probably don't get to Genty when you're doing that. But like if you think about just sitting at home saying, I'm going to attack a game that can take out another game, if everything keeps going this way, again, people don't like to bet on that very clearly because 6%, 3.1, 1.4, there's no way that Lawrence can have another good game. I myself wasn't super high on it. I thought the fact that, he's going up against Denver now might be a real team, and he keeps rolling it out there. And it was, 31. Jacoby, not the best game, but I would have been way more likely to get to him than Parker Washington. So that just is another, thing that happens. That's the way it goes. But I think from home, if you were going to another game stack, instead of Goff, Amon-Ra, J-Mo, DK Metcalf, and Gainwell, going to Lawrence, Myers, even if you had went like Sutton, Harvey, Strange, or BTJ, and I know he didn't do anything. I'm just saying, like, I could see setting it up that way. What's interesting about that is where it would have landed you in that mid-range. That's why I'm saying, like, you wouldn't have got to the top of the milli in this example, but like if you had a Michael Carter instead of a Genty, you still could have had the Saints D. You could have still had Chase Brown very easily and all that. So I think you kind of would have landed more in that type of build. And maybe it's the Houston D instead of that. So it's just for people to see, 218 is what you needed to win the $20 milli maker with 132,000 entries. I think a lot of people are playing more, 10,000 or less player tournaments entries, and they're playing single entries and smaller buy-ins and different field strengths and all of that, where it's like you could still put together a really nice lineup in those and be able to make it happen. And Matthew says, I did nothing great to write about yesterday. I had all these pieces just not correlated together, working the process and seeing progress. Appreciate the show. And that's why we talk about this a ton. So I love that comment, and I appreciate you being here and working on your game and checking this out. But it's, that's why whenever, first time everyone says, trust the process. We always, talk about that as like, which process? Nobody shows you how to actually play. That's what these shows are all about. That's what it's all about at Ship It Nation, at DFS Mastermind, all those different things we're focused on. But you do got to trust the progress. Like if you are seeing progress from the work that you're putting in, that's when you kind of feel better about, okay, maybe it's just a few small tweaks. And I work with a lot of people, Nades, that say that, like they'll play a 3 max. And this is just one topic from last week. I'll kick it to you on this. Like they're playing 3 max and they're going, okay, give me a Goff lineup. I got to have one of those. Give me a Trevor Lawrence lineup. Got to have one of those. And give me, now I heard them talk about Chase. Now I got to, or Burrow. Now I got to have a Burrow lineup. Give me one of those. Like certainly you can play that way. I'm not saying it's wrong. I get it. But that's where people say, I got all the right pieces just in all the wrong places. You didn't really manipulate your 3 max portfolio to go together or play together. You just built 3 lineups and said, I got one of these, and one of these, but there's no cross correlation. The overarching theme, Nades, would be like, okay, I went to the Goff lineup because I really think the Lions are going to put up 40 points today. Would have been very wrong about that yesterday because I was and many others were as well. So you'd be in the same camp as us right now on Monday morning wondering what the hell happened to all that money. But the point is more, if your overarching theme or your conviction is that the Lions are going to score 40 to 50 points, and that's why you're starting with a Goff lineup, well, then don't you think your next lineup should have Gibbs in it or something to go with? Like every lineup should go with the theme. I don't know why everyone's trying to cover every angle. You're covering no angles because you got 3 completely random lineups that have nothing together. And even if you were right about the Lions, you went 1 lineup of your 3 and you went 1 chance of whatever your tournament has in it of people that have darts to throw at that game now. So you're not really covering anything when it comes down to it. You're think you're covering everything, but you're covering nothing. This isn't for you, Matthew. I like what you're saying here. I'm just noting that was just a theme that a lot of people that say that can be what it is, right? They're not actually manipulating their portfolio to play off of one another. And I do that all the time. 5 lineups, 6 main lineups, whatever it is. There's some sort of theme within them. Do you have any thoughts on that, Nades? I mean, we don't have much else here to cover. So kind of just thoughts on something like that people can learn from.
Yeah, I think it's really, really sharp. And I used to be accustomed to that as well, right? Kind of just playing more lineups to cover more angles, right? When the overarching theme is you're not covering an angle. And it could not just be a game, right? You knew yesterday going in, right? The spend up running back was a good build in general, right? There was a lot of people on it for good reasons, right? Gibbs and Bijan were in smash spots, right? And you can add in guys like James Cook and Achane for Achane obviously is a pivot off of those, but Cook for a little bit cheaper than those as well. So if you in your 3-max portfolio, right, maybe you build 2 lineups, right? 2 of your lineups, regardless of whatever the stacks are, that have both those spend up running backs. Okay. But then in the third one, maybe you do a balance build and say, okay, if these first 2 lineups aren't getting there with my spend up running backs, and use your different cheap stacks to unlock it, right? The Minshew stuff, the spend down stacks, right? That people are going to afford those. Well, in the third lineups, you can manipulate your portfolio to then say, okay, if these first 2 lineups are dead because the overall roster construction, it's not a process of, okay, Bijan didn't get there, this guy didn't get there. It's they didn't get there because of the roster construction that you needed to unlock them. Well, maybe in your third lineup, you just go to a more balanced build, and you live in the mid tier and say, okay, I know a lot of people going into the slate yesterday want these spend up guys, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, right? The spend up wide receivers, and 1 or 2 of the spend up running backs. Third lineup, you just go balance, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to go up at quarterback, and I'm going to play a more balanced type roster, and I'm going to fade very uncomfortable plays, but I'm not fading them because I have them in whatever 66% of my portfolio if you're only playing 3 lineups, right? So that's how you can kind of manipulate it. It's not just to say that, okay, I'm in on this Detroit game and they're going to score 40 points. What does that look like? That's good, but it could just be from a roster construction standpoint, right? I know I want these spend up running backs. I'm going to devote majority of my portfolio to them and to that roster construction, what that looks like. And then in the third one, I'm going to manipulate that. So if those don't get there, I at least have a chance that maybe this other one is pushing up the board because of that.
Yeah. And that's the key. You can extrapolate this out. I'm going to do a 3-max, 20-max example for a second. I'm going to show you one more thing with Squirrel that I just wanted to see it. I was pretty sure it was going to happen. And sure enough, exactly what I was expecting to see. I'll show it in 2 seconds. But the main thing is, or 2 minutes, but the main thing is, like, if people build 20-max, even when they tighten up. So when they don't tighten up, this is what people say. They're like, oh, the reason you feel like you had all the right pieces, just not in the right places, is because your 20-max was spread completely out. So of course you landed on a bunch of guys. You had a massive 20-max pool. You had 1 share of Sutton. You had 1 share of Genty. You're like, oh, I was on Genty. No, you weren't. You had him in 1 lineup by fluke. Like, you weren't even on. So it just happened. That's not being on all the right pieces. It's different. And that's kind of the key. It's what Title always says. It's not how often you're right. It's how much you make when you are right. It's like, if you're really focused and building your portfolio around this in 20-max, 3-max, whatever it is, you're going to be wrong and you're going to lose, just like you lost anyway. Most weeks. We all do. Most weeks we lose. But when you're right and you are correct about everything, that's when you've got the most angles of attack to move you up the board. And then you got bullets to get there. And what I mean by that is, like, in 20-max, a lot of people say, okay, I'm going to play 2 quarterbacks. Those that tighten up. I'm saying most don't do this. Most play 20 quarterbacks. But when you do tighten up, even, some people will still build 10 quarterbacks, 10 quarterbacks. 10 of one quarterback, 10 of another quarterback. But they don't realize this till after, Nades. All my Jared Goff lineups had Jameson Williams in them. And, of course, it was an Amon-Ra game or whatever. It's like they're not even reviewing what they're getting. It's what you said. You could have a Goff. Like, think about trying to build with Herbert yesterday. Herbert, Ladd, QJ. Herbert, QJ, Allen. Herbert, Ladd, Allen. Herbert, Ladd, Gadsden. And that wouldn't work. I'm just saying, like, you want to build some of that stuff that you want to think about where you can put it in your favor. And so there's levels to even that. But in the 3-max, here's an example. Let's say you really like Goff and you really like Purdy. I'll just use last week's, not this week, but the week before. Let's say you really like Goff and you really like Purdy. Well, your Goff lineup could be with the passing stack. Your Purdy lineup could be with the passing stack. You could just put Gibbs into the Purdy lineup and CMC into the Goff lineup. And then in the last one, you could go to more balance. If those are both looking stars and scrubs, you could go to a more balanced build of, okay, if both of those failed, what would be the game stack that I'm on that beats it? And this is the example over to Squirrel. If you're not going to be on the Pittsburgh-Detroit game, and this is looking at his portfolio from 3 lineups, I'm just saying you'll easily see it throughout his portfolio. If it's in these 3, it's across the whole thing. This was an example within his 150 portfolio where it's like, hey, if I'm not going to be on that Pittsburgh-Detroit game, and I know the optimizer set this up, everyone's going to say, oh, you're just looking at it, and he optimizes all these. It doesn't matter. It's not about that. This is the whole point. You can optimize for this. If you play 150, 20, or 3, do it by hand and you can optimize for it. What I'm explaining right now. The point would be, this lineup said that ain't going to be the game you need, but I'm going to get you a balanced build of another spot that would be pretty crazy, that if it breaks the slate, this can put you in that position. I'm going to give you Strange, Myers, Lawrence, Harvey. You're still going to get a piece of Cincy. You're still going to get a piece of New Orleans D, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now let's look at this next lineup. Oh, if it is Olave really breaking the slate, let's see how this looks. This is just random, but I'm just showing this is how a portfolio build is supposed to look, and that's why he's one of the best to do it. Shuck, Olave, Jawan Johnson, boom. Cincy defense, but not on Chase Brown. I am not on that game stack still, but I am getting a piece of it with Jahmyr Gibbs. Oh, there's Harvey and Jacoby Myers. See how this had Lawrence and Myers, but with Olave and Chase Brown? But you see how this had Olave, but with Shuck and Jawan Johnson, not Chase Brown, but it's got the Cincy defense still on Harvey with Myers, but not with the overstack. It's all part of a portfolio. And then you go to the next one, another Trevor Lawrence here set up, but it's got James Cook and Chase Brown. Instead of Gibbs, it's got Gainwell, a different defense that pairs with James Cook. Like, this is how you put yourself up top and give yourself the opportunities for when you are correct, right? And I'm sure I'm not going to, find it right away. Probably I won't get lucky on the first setup, but there's one. Didn't take me long. He was on that game too. Just like you guys, just like me, just like us, just like all of us. He was on this spot just like everybody else, but his portfolio is set up in a way. There's another version. If it's not going to be a full game stack, what if it's the other big game on the slate? Well, then I'll get Gibbs in there. I'll get T. Higgins, since I'm not on Chase Brown in this one. Like, it all goes together and flows together. So just keep that in mind. I think that's really important when you're looking at this stuff. I saw somebody ask about this. This is not going away. This is brand new for 2026. Somebody asked, Marquee Sports, are you still doing the daily or the 5-day sign up? Yeah, if you go to shipitnation.com and just click join the nation on your mobile device or on your desktop, whatever you're using, it will immediately park you right here on the trials to get started. We know what we have is solid. We know that people are having success with it. If you don't believe that, you can just go to Winner's Circle. It was also on the front page. You'll be able to see very easily all the people having success. This is honestly, like, to me, and we'll spend more time on this in 2026 and launching it and explaining it all. But if you are not really, a high DFS player, you don't play a ton of volume, but you hear us talking about UFC 325 when it comes around, and you're like, okay, I want to kind of sign up for that today and just check it out. That's what you pay the $9 for, but you get content with that, right? Like, you'd get all access, but I'm just saying you might only be using the MMA content that day. You don't get the Discord, but you do get SaberSim and you do get the content. The much better deal, though, I don't know why you would spend $9 for one day when you could spend $19 for 5 days, and it is all access, including SaberSim and Discord. So you truly get to see everything that we offer. And the best part of that is you'll actually get full access across the board. So you'll get all the sports, you get the Discord, see the channels in there, all the stuff that we're talking about, be involved in the community. But that's by far, for 5 days, the best deal. And something like right now, you get Monday Night Football, you get the Christmas Day slate, the Night Showdown slate. You'll get all of the NBA throughout the week for the Christmas Day stuff. You'll get, I think, is NHL still going on right now, Nades, too? So you get that.
Yeah, NHL still going on, and there's still good prize pools. I mean, they run a $12 single entry every night with $1,000 up top. But yeah, it's not flashy like NFL is, but I mean, it's usually a 1,000 entrants with $1,000 up top for $12. I mean, so you can still get in there, and we got tons of content over there as well. So there's tons of sports, and we offer them all. And the best part about it is you get into our non-toxic Discord community, and we don't laugh at anyone for answering or asking stupid questions or this and that, trying to learn, right? That's what we're here for. That's what the Discord is. It's a learning environment, right? How do you learn how to become a professor or become a teacher, a doctor or anything, right? You go to school and you sit in class and you learn, right? Well, that's what the Discord is. That's the classroom, right? You ask questions in there. We're all in there, all hours of the hours of the day. And better yet, there's members in there that are very, very intelligent in their own right. And actually some of our channels are run by members in terms of content and things like that. So the community alone is the huge addition. And I don't know why you would spend $9 to not get that community when you can spend $10 more and at least check out the community. And hopefully you stick around and you see where we're worth it. And then you can hit us up, info@ShipNation, right, with an email, and we'll work it out there to get you the best price and prorate it for you.
100%. And right now over Christmas is the best time. We love having fun. As you can see me on the screen there with my National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation shirt on. It is day 10 coming up. This was from yesterday, day 9. It's pinned, but day 10 will come out this afternoon. If you guys want to get involved, go to our X account at ShipItNation. It'll be pinned at the top. You can follow through, do the little SHIPmas tasks for each day, and get in the draw for the big stuff as we get down the stretch here. Day 10 today, day 11, day 12, especially day 12, but you got to be in it. So you got to go back and do some of the chores, but they're very simple tasks. You're leaving, your favorite movie, your favorite holiday drink, whatever. We got a food channel in the Discord that people love. People are going to be posting their baked goods, their Christmas, spreads, the drinks, all that type of stuff that they're having. So it's a lot of fun that way. And then Bill says Discord has been clutch for college bowl season and so many sweaty tryouts. 100% should have brought that up as well. Shout out to my man Bill, but that's definitely a big deal as well. So a lot of good stuff going on over at Ship It Nation. Nades, any final thoughts before we get out of here, my man? This is a second last episode of the season. We've got the last leverage lane coming up this Saturday for week 17. And then we've got the last takedown breakdown next Monday with yourself and me.
Yeah, no, love doing the show. I think we talked through it. Obviously yesterday was a little bit different with some of the Vegas stuff, but I think the roster construction standpoint, right, just taking a chance, right, it feels uncomfortable, and I think you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right, and I think that's the biggest lesson to take away from yesterday, right. Felt very uncomfortable to fade that 50 plus team total, right, where the Lions are in a can't miss spot at home in a dome, right, against a pass funnel. I mean, it just felt like a can't miss spot. Well, you have to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable, right? A lot of people knew that was yesterday, and that was the masses, and you saw that with the ownership, and we talked through it using the tools on how you could have come about and gone to other games that had really good designations on the stone as kind of a one-stop shop there. So, and not to mention we have other process videos in there as well as a part of DFS Mastermind on how Tambo and myself actually use the stone and use our true tools to build our own lineups in our own portfolio. We're not just on these shows spewing information and telling you to play this, and then we're going to and playing something else, right? We're actually using this for our process, and that's why we believe so much into all of our tools, and we showcase them on every show after the fact, right? Because obviously we keep them behind the paywall for our members that pay us for this content, but we show it every week. I mean, go back and watch all of these shows. We pull up the stone. 99.9% of the time we can build the winning lineups right with the simple color designations and the game designations right off the stone, not to mention the slate plan that talks on to it in more knowledge as well. So I think it's the best time to join and get in now. And I know PGA is right around the corner, and there's a big announcement coming for PGA. And you want to talk about sweaty tryhards, our PGA team is absolutely incredible. Update stuff on the fly, every single showdown, everything of that. And nice thing about that is your money lasts 4 days, right? You get a nice little 4-day sweat out of your money there. So it's not just one slate, you're done, and you move on. You hold on, you got the cut sweat, everything. So really, really fun times ahead.
Yeah. Shout out to G. Carol Thomas here. She said, I love Ship It Nation. Turned $2 into 900 and 250 for Maine and early. And then, yeah, golf just around the corner. Got some announcements for sure coming for that. We're holding them back a little bit. I think it'll be January 1st, but going to be exciting. And 2 milli makers the last 2 years. So we had our man C. Hearn got the milli at the Masters. And then last year it was Scar X24. Chad got the job done with the logo up top. He hit the milli that day as well. So we've had a lot of milli maker winners, a lot of 100K winners. Again, like I say, you can go to check it out with our partnership with SaberSim now. It's right up to and including the full Rolex package. So I mean, if you're with another site too, we always talk about Project Jump Ship, but you could just add us on. Now the price is cheap enough that you could just go in and get it and makes it affordable for you. But if you are looking to move providers and move over and want to try out Ship It Nation, just hit me up, info@shipitnation.com, or directly tambo@shipitnation.com, and I'm happy to take care of you, but do the best I can at least to do so. So all right, Nades, this has been fun, man. I got to get rolling here, but I appreciate everybody. I appreciate you, and we'll be back next week, same time. Make sure to check out this afternoon, Hoop and myself, breaking down the Monday Night Football slate. Tonight, we've got the 49ers at the Colts. We'll be back at 2 p.m. Eastern. Make sure to tap that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. For Nades, for myself, ToeTagginTambo, let's ship it!